very quickly, how many people took a flight to arrive in Italy to attend this event? Can I see a show of hands, please? But audience participation, wonderful. How many people took the first price for the flight that they saw? Or how many people searched multiple places to actually find the flight that got them here? Yeah, or did you search multiple places before you actually booked the flight?
I used a meta-search site, and the first price that surfaced was the cheapest.
Thanks, Mike. Wonderful. Okay, great. Data Kyte. Web3 airline inventory oracle. A little bit about our mission, the vision of what we are trying to do. We are trying to standardize the airline industry's inventory to make it universally accessible and to stop fare scraping. What is fare scraping? Tends to be the first thing I'm asked when I'm explaining my project. Fare scraping is the automated process where computer programs, bots, extract data, fare data from airlines. They physically go in and they scrape information from the back ends of the airline's infrastructure. They do it in multiple ways, and they can attack an airline's website in seconds, minutes, hours, or even days. They basically create a script that keeps sending in signals to the airline to pull out prices for the inventory they have. Who are our scrapers? Everybody assumes scraping is performed by bad actors. But ultimately, within the industry, we have 4 types of scrapers. We have our OTAs and our meta searches, as Mike used to find his price to fly here. We have travel aggregators, Skyscanner. Competitor airlines, another very big player on this bot scraping. And then we have the criminals. Now, they all do their scraping for different things. They all have reasons for needing to get a price. What is the problem the bots are causing? So fare scraping hits airlines at multiple cost points. We have the increased infrastructure that needs to be provided to facilitate this scraping activity. And in some instances, the activity on an airline's website can be 90% bad bot activity. Service providers. The service providers are your big boys, your Amadeuses and your Sabres that are generating the prices every time a request is sent in. So these guys are charging the airlines every time a request is made. Look-to-book ratios. This is the big one. About 10 or 15 years ago, an average look-to-book in the airline would have been 10 or 15 to 1. So for every 10 or 15 looks from a customer, they would have made 1 booking. We're seeing numbers on average on some websites of about 4,000 to 1. And in high peak seasons, this can jump up to 9, 10, or 11,000 as a look-to-book ratio. And it's being inflated by the bot activity. This is not real people actively looking for a flight. This is because the bots are constantly hitting the airline's infrastructure to extract prices. What then happens once these prices are extracted by the bots and they get used then on these platforms is we get a pricing war between what the bots are trying to sell at, or the agents, and then what the airlines actually sell for. And we have seen instances where a pricing war would force prices down because the airline wants to retain the customer, so they will actively keep trying to lower their price to bring you back to their website. As a bit of a validation, an airline, at one point, its infrastructure over the course of 1 month grew by $500,000 just to facilitate a surge in bad bot activity. This excessive infrastructure costs for serving the bots can go up to 50% of their usual spend. So what's the solution? What is Data Kyte? What are we trying to do? We are a Web3 inventory oracle that calculates the price on the consumer device. So what we offer is a sandbox booking environment, which I'll get into further in a couple of slides. we produce the price on device, and it's an MFIL price, and it's linked to the sandbox. So an MFIL price means ultimately it will expire. It's got a very short lifespan. We use proof of humanity as a step to validate that the person looking to generate the price is in fact a person, and it isn't a bot. And we're using dynamic continuous pricing to bring airlines the ability to retain ownership of their pricing model. And having had several conversations with some of you wonderful people the last couple of days, understanding more and more how the pricing element within travel is being outsourced to another company, it really sort of baffles me that that isn't the core part they're trying to keep hold of. What are the benefits? There are many, but of course we have a slide and we want to try and make it as graphically appealing as we can. So we're trying to reduce infrastructure costs. We're trying to take fare scraping to zero, 100% zero fare scraping or bad bot fare scraping from the platform. And we want to allow the airlines to retain customers. All of this, if married together, should allow the airlines to increase their profits. But just in case some of you don't fully understand the concept of what an oracle is within Web3, it's a term, as always with Web3, we like to look into the past, although we're building for the future. An oracle is an ancient term for a person that would have knowledge, the Oracle of Delphi in Greece, and the population would go to them and ask them for advice. So an oracle really is someone that has information, has data. And the Web3 community has just usurped that term and applied it to several other projects. You may all have heard of Chainlink, probably the largest oracle network, and a very new network called the Flare network is a pricing oracle. The blockchain and AI part within the solution is about how we're going to look to reduce the infrastructure cost by sharing the infrastructure across the blockchain network, and within the pricing algorithm for how we're going to allow the prices to be generated on device, we're going to be leveraging AI. Now, I'm not going to spout too much about AI, because at this point, I don't think we physically know how we're going to use AI exclusively. So I'm trying to keep things as simple as possible by not really getting too nitty-gritty on what the AI is going to do with the pricing aspect. What's our market size? Recently, IATA has just released its numbers that the global airline revenue for 2024 will be around $964 billion. Research by some of the Impervia and Distill networks have found, on average, around $10 billion is lost to bad bot activity within the airline industry. So if we look at these numbers and we can extrapolate that 60% of all of the bad bot activities on airlines within travel, we're looking at a target market of 6 billion. How does it work? This is the interesting part. So as we can see up here, we've got our airline. We're trying to represent this as if it's their web page, just to try and give you a bit of graphical representation. If you think how we book flights now, we go to the website, we're asked to put in our leaving destination, we're asked to put in where we want to arrive, we're asked to put if it's a return or a one-way, and then we tell them the dates, and we hit search. And what are we presented with? We're either presented with a single price for the day we're looking to fly, or we're shown a wonderful calendar with loads of prices, and then we can look at which day we want to fly. But at no point have they validated if I am a person. So I can pull all of these prices multiple times. What we look to do is we look to host the inventory of the airlines within our service and make it available in the sandbox. Now, the sandbox is exclusive to the user's device at that time. A user will come in, they'll do an inventory search within the sales channel that's being available to them on their phone, on their website. Once the inventory is put in, we will ask them, is this time okay? If there's multiple flights, we will say you can have this day, this day, this day, and this time, this time. They tell us all of the parts of the flight they would like. At that point, we have a proof of humanity step. Now, the proof of humanity step is where we tie into the Camino network and we're looking to work with Provider ID or maybe even World ID going forward. Once a proof of humanity step is completed, the algorithm is triggered and a price is produced to the user. Now, this price is only exclusive to that user at that time in that sandbox. So there is absolutely zero ability for a scraper to take that price and try and use it elsewhere, try and resell a ticket, because it has no function outside of this sandbox. It does not exist. That price is only available at that time in that sandbox booking environment. How does the product look? Basically, we're trying to create a secure Web3 inventory management, proprietary AI pricing engine with the sandbox booking interface, and we are going to be fully integrated into the Camino Messenger. Now, how it's exactly going to look may be completely different to this, but just to give some representation, we're thinking about how the inventory will be stored on our servers, can be easily accessed, how ultimately retailers can look to then present the information for how the prices are generated. Oh, Madonna. I try to keep my slides as simple as I can, but unfortunately, when you've got to cram a lot of information, you're going to have to suffer some slides like this. So this is a very brief look at our MVP. We're projecting 6 months from funding to get to an MVP stage that we can then pilot with some partners. We've got some key milestones that we look to attain as we move through, and ultimately, the setup of the inventory oracle, developing the pricing algorithm, integration with Camino, the messenger specifically, and then finally down to testing and delivering. Our traction. Mike, yesterday you said about Air Baltic, about how they're very forward-thinking, very Web3 enthusiastic. We have Air Baltic as a partner airline that are ready for a demo of this product. We are talking to 5 other major airlines that are also Web3 curious. They are not yet able to go on the deck, but we are in conversations with them, and they are also very keen to understand how this solution can solve their fare scraping issues. And the startup Kyte is based in Riga, in Latvia, and we have the support of the investment and tourism agency within Riga. Who are the competitors? We have to look at the solution and break it down into 2 parts. You have the providers that are trying to stop the current bots from scraping the data. These people are offering you captures, they're offering you rate limiting, they're offering you IP tracking. You then have the service providers that are doing the price generation part, the people that are offering you the inventory hosting and then ultimately generate the pricing on request. We are bridging those 2, and we are using our Oracle service to stop the bots and to then ultimately generate the price within our sandbox. We are the first Web3-centric product to be looking to do this. We believe, look, once our solution is implemented, we can also open up the airlines to new distribution channels. No one, to our knowledge, is physically calculating the prices on device in an emphatic way that can then eliminate the need for bot scraping. The business model. We're looking at this very short term. We're looking at how we're going to engage with the airlines and bring them onto our platform. So at the moment, we're going to be looking at having a fee per month to access the platform for our early adopters, and then much aligned with the industry as standard, we're going to be charging per API. As we develop on, we're going to look to how we bring those partners into a bigger environment where we're then dealing with everything on the platform, and then we will look at how the scaling of the revenue per month can grow from there. Financial outlook. We're trying to be extremely rational with what we've found. Airlines within the travel industry are heavily regulated. They really need to understand technology they're going to be using. They really want to test it. So we're looking to grow very steadily and looking to add 3 airline partners every 6 to 8 months. And over the course of the next 5 years, we're projecting revenues of around 9 million by 2029. Again, I'm an under-promise, over-deliver type. I really want to say to you, look, this could be a lot more, but I think it's much more sensible for me to tell you this is a very realistic, deliverable revenue model. Who are the team? My name is Samuel Austin. I'm from the UK, currently based in Latvia. I have been working in Web3 and blockchain since 2017. Very typically, I was introduced to crypto by a friend right at the peak of the 2017 bull market. Thought I was going to retire as a trader, and within the first 4 months, I found I'd lost everything I put in. But I was sold on the technology. And being a tech geek, I then spent the next 4 or 5 years understanding the tech, being involved in the technologies and the new things. I was part of the team that helped to launch the Tron network. We was a super representative, and we held the position of top SR on the network for 8 months. And I'm currently running a data oracle provider for the Flare network, which again, as I mentioned earlier, very similar to Chainlink, but we aggregate prices and feed them into the network to earn rewards. The advisor to the project, and ultimately the inspiration for Kyte, is Glenn Morgan, who most people in the industry will know, former CTO of IAG, advisor to Camino. He's got extensive knowledge within aviation, and at every point when we're developing our product, he's been able to give great insight on how we're best to deliver it to the airlines and to solve the problems they've been experiencing. We're supported by Tectris VC, naturally, while we're here. We've been approved Google Web3 Startup, and also within Google, we have now engaged with the Google Travel team from their meta search platform, Google Travel, which everyone uses. They're very keen to see a demo of our product to understand how they could look, if they have 1 point of inventory query from our platform, rather than going to the 10 or 15 different platforms they currently go to now. And Camino. I've been engaged with Camino now for 2 years, and we want to be exclusively integrated into Camino Messenger because we feel it's going to be a landmark development for the travel industry as a whole. We're currently asking for 150,000 euros to help us get us to a developed MVP. We have 6 months as our guide to develop to MVP because we're going to be looking to leverage some existing technologies to get us to a pilot with our airlines. But the runway could extend to between 8 and 12 months for us to get to the point where we can then show our airlines what we have. Thank you very much.
I go on. Thanks a lot, Sam.
Thank you.
Any questions from somebody?
How exactly a price is calculated by the sandbox?
Much like what the airlines have now, they have their own pricing algorithm. What we do, and when you call the price currently, their algorithm manufactures the price based on their current criteria, and it gives it to you at your interface, your app, your website. What we're doing is we're breaking that into 2 parts. Within our sandbox, we include the calculation part.
Of the airline company?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so the algorithm bit that actually is going to put the price together. All we do when the price is requested is we pull the inventory into the sandbox.
Okay.
So then it's, okay, we're going to have 2 seats, Riga to London, Monday, and returning next Thursday. That's all we need from the airline. They send it to us with their pricing logic. From that point, we can manufacture that price on the device and show it to the user.
So it's not Kyte that, let's say, create the price,
No.
but is a call to the airline company.
Exactly that. We're empowering the airlines again to retain the aspect of their own pricing. Now, they can change this pricing logic as much as they want because it's on their back end. I'm only dealing with the part at the front that puts the puzzle together to give you the price. But this is really good question because ultimately then what we can do is we can start getting into personalized pricing.
Yeah,
because
that's that's the point of my...
Exactly, because we're on the user's device now, we're in Web3, I can maybe go and look into the wallet and work out what they've done. They've flown with me 15 times, they're always on time. Okay, I can give this person a better rate if I choose to.
Do you plan as a future evolve to become also, let's say, an RMS for the airline company? Because if you have the sandbox, if you have the info and whatever, essentially you can create for them the price.
it's not immediately on our radar, to be honest. I mean, we really want to be laser focused. You know, travel's so vast, even with hotel pricing. I mean, this scales across anywhere where you need to manufacture a price. Hotels, car rental, cruising, trains. We want to be extremely focused on just airlines at the moment because we know they suffer the most. Whether RMS in the future becomes a plausible solution, then, you know, if airlines are saying, I can use your tool to do this, would you explore it? Then we're very open to talking with our partners and seeing how we can leverage new solutions.
I'll come back to you.
Go ahead. Non-juries first? No?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go then. All right. Fantastic. I'm always excited about on-edge device computing, and I think that's super awesome. And it actually is kind of close to my heart, this space, because I actually helped Flyer Labs back in 2016.
Oh,
they
wonderful.
were called Flyer Labs at Plug and Play, and then we actually helped them pivot into actually a airline revenue management system.
Okay, great.
Prior to actually being an RMS, they were more of a data place. We can talk about that later. But maybe I'm missing a point here. One thing I'm trying to understand is, okay, so it's not a hammer hitting a nail in terms of like the bot problem is, I get it, okay, there's a bot issue.
Yep.
But you're actually trying to do pricing on device. That the bot that's like a kind of like an ancillary, you know, like, okay, cool, it's nice to have, right? That you help solve that problem. But what I'm trying to understand is, this is the point I'm missing, is if you're doing on-device pricing, right? And then how does that price get accepted by airline? How does that booking actually transact at the end of it?
Sure. So ultimately, the airline is only integrating us as a tech solution. You know, we're not really anything. When you go to their website, you're still going to see exactly the same front end that they would use. It's just our booking module that they would use. So when within the sandbox, the price is called for, so I've picked Riga to London, Monday to Friday, and I then go generate price. I get offered the proof of humanity step. I pass the proof of humanity, and then it says, okay, here's the price. Okay, yes, I'm happy with this price, book.
Okay, maybe it's the terminology that caused my confusion. When you say generate the price, you're surfacing the price. You're
surfacing the price from the airline.
You're not using like some kind of algorithm to look at availability, rate, inventory, and then boom, here's the price.
That's right.
Okay,
basically, it's to use their building blocks that is needed for a price, and then all I do is put it together on the device. Because this step breaks the ability for a bot to take that price and use it.
Okay, got it. Cool.
At the beginning, you showed how the bot situation brings prices down because airlines are forced to kind of compete with the bots or with the other websites using scraping data, correct?
Yeah.
Does it mean that if this solution becomes widespread, prices will be higher, or there's another dynamic there?
I'd like to think what the pricing will become is trustable. Personally, when I go looking for a flight, I'm always worried if the price I'm seeing from a different platform is actually my best price. I don't trust the price I'm seeing, so invariably I end up going through multiple different sites to find a price. I think what it should do is, once the airlines now are not having to spend so much money on their services to just service giving people prices, what we start seeing as travelers, we can instantly trust, because anywhere that this service is implemented, you're always dealing directly with the airline to produce the price, to surface that price. So I would like to think there won't be an increase in prices, because I don't see the benefit to the airline for doing it.
So there's more margins because there's less cost of infrastructure and bot protection, right?
There's another element that sometimes when a fare is scraped, if it's with an OTA or a travel aggregator, if they've got terms with the airline to sell these tickets, they can undercut them. And then when the airline wants to retain that customer, they see that Skyscanner's offering this flight $10 cheaper, they come and they force their price down as well, because they want to retain direct sales. So we get a ping-pong effect of where prices can be forced down.
So there's not going to be any more pricing wars? So the prices are going to be higher or higher margins? I'm seeing this like trying to understand from the customer perspective, right?
Yeah,
so
sure.
you solve the issue of the airline. They have less cost, so they should make even prices cheaper, but at the same time, there's no more pricing wars. which maybe benefit me as a user or not? Does a price war benefit me as a user?
I mean, it depends, doesn't it? If the price war never allows you to understand if the price you're getting is the best price.
Yeah, it's me because I don't use I only go to the airlines, so I don't have this issue. No, I've tried these aggregators, etc., and then you see a nice price, and by the time you end, the price is different. So I don't use them. I don't have that pain point. But yeah, it's clear. Thanks. Proof of humanity. I think. Can you go to the slide? I think we discussed this. I can't remember.
We did extensively.
Yeah. So as far as I know, proof of humanity is an unresolved problem online. Like, you can't really prove somebody's a human. You can actually mitigate it, like make it more probable that somebody's not a bot. What did we discuss last time about that? Is there a final way to check it?
We was discussing how ultimately could this not be spoofed by having 10,000 devices in the Philippines and someone runs around and hits a capture button. You know, this is different. What the proof of humanity step is it's either tied to a user's wallet, or if we're not going fully integrated into Web3 yet to try and make this as easily adoptable as possible, it can be a Face ID scan on your phone. You know, the ability to Face ID to prove that it's a person as opposed to a bot that wants to come in and get that price surfaced, the proof of humanity step mitigates that ability.
But I can have 100 phones and one person doing this in,
you can.
in a
farm. And you would get 1,000 prices.
Yeah.
If you did not buy them at that time, they're irrelevant.
Because I can't scrape them to use them online because they are ephemeral.
You would need to purchase all 1,000 tickets in your name to your details, and then you've got 1,000 flights now that you can't resell.
And that's because they are ephemeral.
Yeah.
Okay. Another question about this. Ephemeral pricing is not a thing yet, right? That will be what you bring in the market.
Yeah, within the airline industry. Yeah.
Prices change all the time, so I guess they are some ephemeral.
I mean, there's a very understood use case for this is how many people have used Uber, and if you're traveling the same distance and you open up and you request your Uber, the price for me and you can be different.
So this is not requiring the industry to change pricing.
No, the concept of the dynamic continuous pricing and the in-full pricing is kind of well established in other areas. I'm just bringing it into the airlines.
All right, cool, thanks.
How are you? How are you going to make sure that an airline keeps control of their pricing algorithm and they're not giving away their secret sauce and all the intelligence they've gathered over the years, and how exactly does blockchain help you there?
There's no way of me controlling that they don't give away ultimately how a price is manufactured or generated for them. I mean, there's pros in the industry at the minute, which is using AI to manufacture prices for airlines, but again, it's an outsourced solution. By giving the power back to the airlines here to actually physically control, no matter where their inventory is being sold, that they can control the pricing, I'd like to think it would encourage them to do so. Because then they've constantly got access to the logic that they would want to change to address demand. Is the flight selling faster or slower than we expected? Do we want to put prices up and down? You know, this is already an established metric on their services that they do for themselves already. We're just breaking that tiny chain between when they use the inventory to generate the price and then physically give it to the user.
I'm going to follow up because the question I had was my understanding that you're surfacing the price, you're not calculating, you're not generating the price. But then I'm reading this slide here where it says the oracle that calculates the price on consumer device. So I'm still confused because if you're calculating the device on my iPhone and I said, awesome, $800 for this Delta flight, book it. Then how is Delta going to accept a price that they didn't calculate or they didn't produce? That's the part I'm missing the link on.
So ultimately, the final bit on the on-device part, we're going to be using part of their pricing structure, their pricing algorithm. We're just breaking it so look, you have to do the proof of humanity step.
Gotcha. Okay, so let's say that works exactly how you think it's going to happen. Airlines willing to share their algorithm data, however you're going to get that exact same pricing. So there's no price parity, let's say, right? And then boom, they can go ahead and book it. But now how are you going to address the concern from an airline exec that says, we want, direct bookings because that's how we can control the booking flow. That's how we can do the upselling. That's how we can do all these ancillary revenue generation process. Because now hotels, the same thing. Hotels and airlines, they all want direct booking to their website, to their booking engine, because they can control the booking flow.
This is going to be direct. Ultimately, you're going to be going to their website. That no one's coming to a DataKite website. This is our solution built into their service.
See, I missed that part.
Okay.
Got it.
So this is, you're going to go to an Airbus website.
You're not actually a booking engine.
No, not at all.
Right.
We are the platform as a service that gets integrated into their front end.
Okay.
Their HTML shows the price, and the price comes from your device, but it's still their website or app.
Yeah. You would not know you are dealing direct with the airline. This is all about trying to allow the airlines to retain customer direct booking. Because too many times people are having to go elsewhere to think if they can find a better price. You can now trust that the price you're seeing anywhere that's using this is always going to be generating the price from the airline.
All right. So we ran out of time for this one, but I have a last question. Is that okay? So, so the situation today is that these aggregators, they scrape, so they get prices, but they're not always correct. Sometimes they are. Okay. Then in the new system, everything happens on my phone. Can I brute force my phone and try to get many prices per second, and then analyze this and try to reverse engineer the algorithm, because I suppose every airline has different ways to calculate prices. Some will be easily extracted, some not. Have you thought about this? How does it work?
To be honest, we haven't. I'd like to think, I don't know why you'd want to try and reverse
I'm a bot.
Be. But the bot isn't really trying to guess the price. The bot wants to come in and get the current price. It wants to use the now price.
Well, but sorry, if I get the algorithm, I can have all the prices because I'm actually generating them on the fly, right?
Well, yeah, but then you'd ultimately have to come in and hack the system to get into the code.
I'm just hacking my own phone where you are giving me a lot of data of real prices.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Ultimately, that will be worked out in the development. To be honest with you, I can't answer that question now.
Maybe you can tell maybe the industry goes in a position with some algorithms will be too easily hacked, so they have to improve them.
Yeah, we won't be keeping the whole part that's needed on the device. The idea is we break the chain enough, so that then the little bit that's needed to give the user the price is then made present through our service.
Just as a final comment, because we discussed a lot in Discord, etc. Ultimately, I don't know anything about airline prices, so every question I have is just because I'm interested. I suppose we need somebody really expert to analyze this specific startup, and I'm sure we have someone. So I don't know. I like it, but I'm not in a position to actually judge the stuff. Yeah. I don't have enough knowledge about that myself. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It should be the same time it would take to generate a price now. There will be no delay ultimately from using the service than if you used an airline's current system.
How much data is moved by the system?
Not a lot. Not a lot, ultimately, again, because all we're doing is we're pulling the inventory data that we need to then generate that price. So it shouldn't be a big data pool, unless you're booking 500 flights, and then we need to go and look into the inventory.
Thank you. No, we need to move on.
Yeah.
This is the last question. Thank you very much.
For me or for everybody?
For everyone.
No, a quick one. At the beginning of the slide, you were saying there is a fair share of traffic that is kind of malicious, criminal. It's like denial of service, or there's something more just targeting the airlines?
It can be denial of service. A big one, actually, the airlines are suffering is with rewards. Criminals are coming now and they're hitting their servers to try and get access to all of the loyalty points that aren't being used. Okay. But then ultimately, criminals are trying to get the prices, move them into a different selling environment. They then sell the tickets unscrupulously, and then they go back into the system. So it's broken down in that way.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much.